Hello, Orange County Schools math students. It me, Mr. Allred. I'm here to talk to you about Lesson 3 in Unit 5 called Bumpers. This lesson is all about adding and subtracting rational numbers. In this lesson, we'll extend what you've learned about adding and subtracting integers, which of course are, that's right, positive and negative whole numbers. We'll talk about adding and subtracting decimals and fractions in this lesson. So we'll add in, pun intended, positive and negative decimals and fractions in this lesson. We have two learning goals in the lesson. First of which, you'll be able to add and subtract integers, decimals, and fractions on a number line. Second of which, you'll determine the value of a variable that might make an equation true. This lesson addresses two standards. The first of which is a 7th grade standard that you learned about earlier in the year. The second of which is another 7th grade standard that we'll cover right now. In this lesson, we'll talk about the summary. We'll talk about the warm-up and activity 1. The warm-up's only 5 minutes long. It'll introduce you to the context of this bumper and the starting point and the star, all those things. And activity 1 is where we'll spend most of our time. The bumper challenges and equations. The purpose of activity 1 is for you to figure out an unknown value in a bumper challenge or in an equation by adding or subtracting decimals and fractions. So here we go. It is game time. I'm glad that you are here, and you are glad to be here. I am sure of it. Here we go with slide number 1, called the warm-up slide. Here's how this works. You're going to hit this ball with the bumper to collect the star. However, right now the bumper sits pretty awesomely at -5. Your job is to enter a number that can be added to it to move the bumper and hit the ball. So if the bumper's at -5 and the ball's at +8, to make it hit the star right there, what should I add to it to make it go up there to +8 and hit the star? What should I add to it to make it go up there? That's what you're going to put in this box right here, whatever you think it goes in there. For instance, if I put 1 and I hit try it, it would move it up and be like, wah, wah, and then it would move back to -5. So your job is to find the appropriate number that you need to add to -5 to make it go to +8. Give it a shot on slide 1 and then come back to Edpuzzle. Awesome job there. Here's slide 2. In slide 2, it's gonna introduce some decimals to you, and you're excited. Right now the bumper sits at +7 5/10, 7.5 as it's affectionately known, and the ball is chilling on here at -3.5. What do you think we should add to 7.5 to make -3.5? What do you think we should add to 7.5 to make -3.5? Work on slide 2 and come on back to Edpuzzle. Awesome job. Maybe you found that when you want, especially when you start with a positive number and you want to make a negative number happen with addition, you're probably going to need some kind of negative number there. And we'll talk more about how you can figure out what the negative number is later on in this video and later on in your instructional life with Unit 5. Here's slide 3. In slide 3, your job is to describe your strategy that you use to solve this challenge. So it's referring back to slide 2. Talk on slide 3 about how you found your answer. Feel free to use the sketch tool if you think it'll help with your thinking. Go work on slide 3 and come back. Here's slide 4. You got another challenge, challenge number 2. The bumper, this one's a little different because the bumper sits at -1 6. -1 6/10 is telling you it's going to move -2 3/10. So that's represented here in the equation. Your job is to figure out what this point x would have to be to make it hit the star up there at the top. So your job is to figure out where the ball should be placed. Where should the ball be placed? So the bumper can hit it and make it hit the star. All right. Basically, what is the sum of -1 6/10 and -2 3/10? Your job is to go work on slide 4, of course, and then come back to Edpuzzle. Here's slide 5. In slide 5, the bumper is at -1.5. I'm sorry, I said that completely wrong. The bumper is at -1/5. It's going to be programmed to move +4/5 of a unit. Where would it end up? Where would this be right here? What is x to make this ball hit this star? So where should the ball be placed? Slide number 5. Slide number 6 is going to ask you about that same situation. It's going to say select all the equations that represent, I'm sorry, this is a brain fart. Go work on slide 5 and then come back to Edpuzzle. In slide 6, you're posed with a slightly new challenge, and 4 possible equations. So you got a bumper at positive 3/4. You've got some kind of action happening here to make it go to positive 1/8, and that's where it's going to hit the star. Your job is to select all of the equations that you think could represent this challenge. There might be more than one equation that applies. Once you pick 2, I believe that's all it asks you to do. Just pick 2 and then move on to the next slide. Go work on slide 6 and come back. Here's slide 7. Slide 7 says, what is the value of x that makes this equation true? This is an equation from the previous slide. What do you think x would have to be to make this equation true? Slide 7. Finally, slide 8. This is the final slide that we need you to work on in this video. This is just a challenge. So once you answer one, let's say you think this first one is 6, because 4 plus 6 is 10. You hit yes, and then it checks it, and it says you're right. It's going to ask you if you want to try another. And you can do as many challenges as you'd like to do on slide 8. Do as many challenges as you'd like to do on slide 8. When you're done doing challenges, you're good for this video and for slides 1 through 8. In your math class, you'll look at the synthesis and cooldown slides, and you'll go over some of those key slides from what we just went over. Thank you so much for coming today. Make it a great day or not. The choice is yours. Go Orange County Schools. Go America. Thank you.